some upcoming photography-related activities. For those interested in people photography, this Saturday, 3rd October, there's going to be a full-day workshop with plenty of tips about posing, lighting setups, regarding fashion and glamour, and obviously ample time to work with a very talented and experienced model. The price is €100. Those interested, send me a private message and I will send you further details. This is not a workshop, my workshop, obviously it's someone else's workshop, but those of you who are interested, just send me a private message and I will send you further details. There are 2 spaces left, I believe, because due to obviously the current restrictions, there's only going to be a very small number of photographers, I believe 5 or 6, not more. On the 17th of October, there will be also a team shoot at Busquet on Halloween. Again, here with various talented models, and each photographer will have ample time to work with models. Those, again, this is not my message. I'm passing over this for someone else. Those interested can send a private message with can send me a private message and I will send you further details. Next week, we will be having Natasha Attart's webinar on art, nude, and glamour photography. This webinar will not be streamed live on Facebook because we decided to restrict this to a mature audience of 18+. Obviously, the content will purely relate to a creative and artistic insight of photography. But we've decided, obviously, since this will be, it will not be streamed live, so that we will secure even given we usually stream it live on the Malta Photographic Society webpage. Before I hand over the floor to the President for his words, allow me some time for a couple of thanks. As usual, Stephen Cutajar, for being practically my right-hand man, supporting myself with coordinating and planning these webinars. Josef Mifsud, the technical guru, which is not much visible, but I assure everyone he is giving the Malta Photographic Society invaluable support, and also for his initiative to stream these webinars live on Facebook. It was his idea, and he is actually doing it every week. I have to thank tremendously the EXCO of the Malta Photographic Society for their ongoing support and constant collaboration. By working together, we are somehow meeting, still having these Thursday club nights in a virtual way, but at least we are still gathering this photographic community together. And last but not least, I have also to thank the various group admins of the social media photography groups for promoting the webinars. I thank Tony Azzopardi, Fotografija Bejn il-Ħbieb, Johan De Bono, All Photography, and Alexander Cutajar of Photography Shots. They all help us spread the word regarding our weekly webinars. I hand over the floor to Lewis for his message.
Hello, everyone. I hope you are all good and taking care of yourselves and your families. I don't have much to say, but I want to mention the 17th October and 18th. They are the judging days for this year's onwards, 55th. On the 17th, I want to mention as well, there is the Middle Sea race for anybody who is interested in taking some shots. For me, for now, that's it. All right, so I leave it into Alex's hand now.
Okay, so Stephen is not here, and I can see that Joe is not here either, so I will straight away introduce our featuring artist. Today we'll be having a very, very interesting talk from not just a photography colleague, but a very, very good friend of mine, Alex Cutajar. We've had some very nice experiences together this summer, very exciting ones. We spent even a whole night in a group together as well. It was very exciting, and I look forward to another one next year. Alex is going to talk to us on astrophotography. He is made, I mean, practically he's an all-rounder in photography, but I think he's making a name in astrophotography and landscapes. He will also be talking to us regarding Lightroom. He is sharing with us some techniques on Lightroom. Not many of us use Lightroom and know all the secrets of Lightroom and tricks, but Alex will be revealing some of them tonight and the versatility of this software. So without further ado, I introduce Alex. All to you, Alex.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. First of all, I would like to thank you for this opportunity to give this webinar. Good evening, everybody. I will be sharing my workflow of how I go about editing the Milky Way. Now, I know there are various techniques how one can edit the Milky Way, but this is for those who take the Milky Way as a one shot, not to take multiple shots and the black photos and then you're stacking. This is just simple one shot. So I have prepared, so let me share the screen for you. Okay. Can you see the screen?
Yes.
Okay. Well, I'm going to show you from the start what to do with Lightroom, how to import the photos, because Lightroom is not like any other program. You have to import the photos in order to edit them. So I know that some they don't use Lightroom, but I find it a very powerful tool to use it. This is different than Camera Raw. A lot of people, they mix Lightroom as if it is Camera Raw. It is a spin-off from Camera Raw, but it has much more extra features, which I will show you as we go along. So basically, you install Lightroom. I'm not going to into it, but because I already installed on my PC. Okay, and to import the photos, I have prepared some photos for this evening. You go on Library up here. Okay, at the top. Okay, and at the bottom here, you can see the mouse going around here. At the bottom, on the bottom left, there is import. So you have to import your photos to start with. Now, Lightroom can import RAW, JPEGs, TIFF, any formats. Okay, which usually can be used in Photoshop. So for tonight, I put them here, webinar. It will automatically select the photos which are not already loaded in Lightroom. Lightroom, if it sees already loaded, it will not highlight them for you because it knows already that it's been imported. In this case, it's not. So we go at the bottom here and we import. Okay, bear with me because this laptop is not a super machine, but it's adequate enough to show you the editing. So I have prepared some photos. Now, some photos are not Milky Way. The first two are not because I want to show you some other things as we go along. But as you can see, the others are different white balances. This is something which is very difficult to white balance at night. So I deliberately chosen different photos, okay? And some of them are the end result. For example, this one is the starting from the camera, and this is the end result it came out after editing. I will show you. I will start actually with this one. This is the end result of this. Okay, so I'm going to start with that. Okay, click on it, and you go on develop. So Camera Raw will automatically choose that photo for you. If you want to rate it, there are some ratings down here. If you think it's good, it's bad. If you want to give it a color background, so at the bottom it changed to yellow, so you know that all the yellows are the good ones. It depends what you want to do. In my case, I just leave them as it is. Okay. On the left hand side, you see a small photo of this one. This is very important because the left-hand side will show some artifacts and some things which, when you enlarge, you will not see it. But when it is small, you will see them. And it's very helpful to have both of them at the same time. So on the right-hand side, I'm going to close here, you will see some tools, which is the basic, tone curve, HES cell color, split toning, details, lens correction, transform, effects, and calibration. Most of these are available in the Camera Raw, but there are some which are not in Camera Raw, and I will show you. So I'm going to start with this one. Okay. Now this was shot with Samyang 12mm Nikon on a Sony camera. So if you see here the information, the lens is not registered. So basically, Lightroom will just pick up any one which thinks it's best suits that photo, but it is not 35mm. I know it was a 12mm. In fact, if you see it, the horizon is not even straight, it's rounded because it's a fisheye. So the first thing I should do is I go into lens correction. That is the first thing I do before I start editing. You should go and do the lens profile of your shot. So I go on the lens. So you see, make came none because it did not recognize it. But I know it's a Samyang, and I know it's a 12mm fisheye. So if you see it now, it is straight, but not that straight because this is a hilltop. But if I also check the chromatic aberration, but in this case, it's not going to make much difference because chromatic aberration happens much when you have a high contrast. Okay, like leaves on a tree and a sunny day, that will show on a glass, for example. But in this case, but as a general rule, I always check it. It's not going to affect anything, but in the end of the day, so we are done from this. Now, this is the different part from Lightroom to Camera Raw, which is the transformation. Transformation, this in Camera Raw, I don't believe there is. And this will help you to straighten up this tower, okay, and straighten up this horizon. So let me see if auto will help the situation, which helps a bit over here. Yes, automatically it's recognized the horizon, but I'm not happy 100%. So let's put it off and we go guided. Guided will give me the opportunity to straighten the photo myself. Now, I am seeing it a bit small to work on. So on the left-hand side, where you see this small photo, at the top, you have fit, fill, 1:1, which is 100%. And here, you have the option to change the magnification or the zoom in, zoom out, actually. I want it smaller. That is 1:3, but if you go, that is okay. You see that's come smaller. In this case, I want 2:1, which is 200%. To move it, you just grab here and move wherever you want. Okay? Because I want to, at this stage, to straighten, let's work on 100%. So it's better like that. So with the guided, what I do is just, I want this one straight. I'm not bothered about these two because I know that it's not going to be that straight, but I want this straight. So I click here, okay? And it tries to find it automatically. If it's not, if you want to really be very picky, you can magnify and move it slightly, okay? So that is one. And I want, when you're done, okay, adjust it and press done. So that is ready. So this is a feature which I find it very, very useful, okay? Because that is straight and here is straight. Now, another feature which I like about in Lightroom is if you press I, you are going to scroll from the information, okay? So I know this is 24 megapixel, 6,000 by 4,000. I want the tower to be on the thirds, but I don't want to sacrifice on the pixelation. So what you can do, you have the scale over here and you enlarge it. So what you're doing is you are enlarging the screen without losing pixelation. And in this case, let's go and like so. Okay, let's say I want it like that. And I want to compare it, what it does if I enlarge it and if I don't enlarge it and if I crop, okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a virtual copy. So I go here, down here, okay? If Vince, if they want to ask questions as I go along, feel free, okay?
Sure.
If I right click over here, okay? Create a virtual copy. So what it's going to do now is it's going to create another copy with all the modifications I did. Okay, so I can compare. Let's say on the virtual copy, I want to crop. So I go on the crop option, okay, and I want it on the thirds. I want, oh, excuse me. So I want this to go on the thirds. I'm going to scale it up. Okay. And I can move it like so. So that is the maximum I can go, 150. All right. So it's slightly smaller. It doesn't matter. So I can crop a bit, not much. So I can crop it a bit more to get it the same as the other one, like so. And press done. Now, this is the one which is cropped. Sorry, scaled. And this is the one which is only cropped. So if I go and press 2:1, 200%, this is how big it comes. And if I go on this one, and it's 200%, see the difference between this one? How big is this? Is the one which is scaled up, and this is the one which is cropped. The definition is still there, it's still clear. But if you want a big poster to print, in my opinion, this one, the one which is zoomed out, give it time so it's better. It shows the grain, everything, because there is no treatment about the noise reduction. But like this, what is doing Lightroom is when you're scaling up, it adds pixels and it calculates the pixels adjacent to it and gives it the same color. So you're not losing much detail. That's why when you enlarge, okay, because the other one, if you enlarge it more, you start losing the details, okay? So that is one option which I find it very good, especially if you want to heavily crop. So you go with the scale and push it up. So let's go and Okay, right, to the Milky Way. So the first thing I want to do is I want to show the Milky Way. This is, by the way, shot at ISO 1000, 30 seconds f2.8. I know ISO 1000 is not ideal, but this is a very sharp lens. When it comes to Milky Way, it is not just the lens, because I hear a lot, okay, get a wide aperture, get a wide aperture. Yes, true, get a wide aperture, but you have to get a sharp enough. You will not get the details out from the Milky Way. That I've gone through it from experience. First I was doing the kit lens, and then I bought the Tamron 10 to 18 with the crop, and then I moved up, I've changed the camera, and then you go to the prime lens, and then you start seeing the difference between one lens and the other lens. In fact, with this one, I can even go down to ISO 1000. Usually they tell you start from ISO 3200 up, you know, to start getting it. So let's start to get the details out. Before I start anything from here, this is the magic slider, clarity. If I push it all the way up just to show you, you will see the Milky Way already popping up, okay? But I don't want clarity. There's global adjustment, but I want local adjustment. In this case, I want the local adjustment. So what I'll do is, right, I go slightly up over here, okay? And from the radial filter, you select, okay, you see it's coming dark. In this case, double click on effects and everything will come neutral. So if I have, for example, highlights, contrast, all these different, if you double click on effects, it will get everything to 0. Okay, so we want the dots on the core of the Milky Way. Just a bit like that. So, and we're going to push up the clarity. Now, the clarity obviously will have to be in order not to make it obvious. So it doesn't matter if here comes white, okay? Because you can go on the brush, go and erase. The feather would be 100%. The flow is not more than 20, okay? The auto mask, make sure it's checked off. If you leave it on, it will not delete everywhere where it sees a contrast, it will leave it. So in this case, what I'm going to do is just slightly remove, okay, like so. So we want to make it more on the core, not outside, okay? Okay, now if I want to see the whole mask, you just click on here, or down here, it show selected mask overlay. Okay, and this is the editing I did. So obviously there's some more here which needs to be removed. Now the flow is 100%, and I don't want any editing to do anything down here, because that is not part of the Milky Way, and not even now. If I want to remove on the tower, click on the auto mask, and it will try to do its best to remove without, you see, it doesn't touch the Milky Way, it only removes from the tower. Uncheck it. Okay. Now, one other thing about the Milky Way is I've seen a lot, in fact, I have it down here as well, different white balances. When you see the sky, it's not black and it's not blue, and it definitely is not brown. because I've seen a lot of photos taken as it comes as brown. It's very difficult to do the white balance at night, so you have to do your own judgment. I personally, I've seen a lot of photos to judge, so to judge in a way to judge my own photos according to others what they see. But you have to understand that it is not black for sure. It's slightly bluish. So when you turn to the blue, you see the Milky Way is starting coming up. And now we're going to go global. That was local, now it's global. Now, when you see down here, there is light pollution. Light pollution is going to also, in Malta, unfortunately, we have a lot of light pollution. Light pollution is going to affect your image because this is lighter, brighter than the Milky Way. And you want the attention of the viewer to be on the Milky Way rather than here. So in order to minimize this effect, you use the radial filter, Gregg filter, sorry, in this case. Okay, push it dark, doesn't matter for now, we just push it dark to know what we're doing. And we just slightly go up here. Okay, it's a bit harsh, doesn't matter. So we turn it a bit, okay, like so. And we reset and slightly just darken a bit. So it will not be that obvious. And push a bit to the blue. Now what will happen is when you do the Gregg filter, it is going to affect also down here. Okay, so we only want this part. You go show again, go on the brush, erase, flow 100%, auto mask for now, we don't want it. Now to increase the size of the brush, use the square brackets. Okay, so this is I'm enlarging and this is I'm getting it smaller. So it gets faster. You don't need to. Okay, bear with me because this PC is a bit slow. Oh, it's not an erase. It's supposed to be an erase. Sorry, my fault. Okay, so now it's removing. Further we don't need. Just for now, remove all this. And it will remove. Hello. It's on erase. Why it doesn't remove it? Okay. It doesn't want to erase for some reason. Okay, flow is 1. That's why. Flow has to be 100. I just remove the flow. Just but like that you end up a whole week to remove it. So you see with the auto mask, I left by mistake. The auto mask switched on. You see here is all red because there's a contrast and it will not remove it. So you have to uncheck the auto mask and make sure it's all gone. And you get the details back. In fact, if I uncheck it, you see the details are back. Okay, that should be enough for now. So we will see the before and after. Here you have the before and after. This is for the light pollution. Okay, if you want it darker, just go here and increase a bit, like so. There's still a bit more of light pollution, so you can still do the same thing twice. I can do another one. So I click here and again. You can do another one with the same. This time I want just that bit. Okay. Okay. And we do the same thing because we lost all the details here. Brush, erase, flow 100, feather 100, auto mask switched off, and unfortunately you need to remove this so it doesn't affect your foreground. Okay. So this mainly is to show you how to remove the light pollution. Again, this was a bit underexposed as ISO. It shouldn't be ISO 1000. It should have been 2000. But if I want a bit more punchy, I can go to the dehaze here, increase a bit more, vibrance a bit, not much. And then you go with the tone curve, slightly down and slightly up there. Actually, more up here, like so. Okay. Now this came a bit on the blue side. Unfortunately, when you use the haze have the habit to increase a lot of blues. So from the temperature, you need to adjust it a bit accordingly. Okay, not brown. Brown is not the right color. If you want here to be lighter, I prefer to have this as the main focus of this photo. This photo is mainly to show you the light pollution, but if you want to do more work on here to bring it up, you can put the exposure slightly up, not much, the shadows down, the haze slightly up. Okay, this one, on the round one, and then that is details. Details is the noise reduction. Ideally, when you take the shot on the camera, you keep the noise reduction switched off. Otherwise, if you're going to take 30 seconds, it will take another 30 seconds to do the noise reduction, and you have no control. In this case, you have all the control you need to increase or decrease as much noise as you want. Now, usually what I do is I go to 100%. I choose something which is dark and bright at the same time next to each other, and from the noise I start pushing it up. Ideally not more than 50-60. That is the maximum I'll go for. Otherwise, when you put it back to normal, you will see it like a plastic image. Okay, bear with me. This is something which my computer is gonna do it when you use the noise reduction. So that's why I left it to the last thing. It will come back. So bear with me. Okay. So let's jump to the virtual, the copy one. If you don't want it, you just click on it, right click on it, remove photo, remove the selected virtual copy, and you remove it. Now, this image, this one, it was taken with a night pollution filter, but the white balance was not set for the night pollution filter, which unfortunately happens to a lot when you leave your camera settings on the day before, and if it's not auto, you will end up taking photos with a different white balance. So with this one, we're going to do some major editing. If you see already at the core, there is colors showing in the core, which is much better than the previous one because it was ISO 1000. This is ISO 2500, and it was taken with the 16mm f2.8 for 20 seconds. So the other one was 30 seconds, but this one was 20 seconds. Right. So the first thing I'm going to do is adjust a bit the white balance. So I'm going to push this one to around 27, and I'm going to push the greens to minus something, 64, something like that. Don't worry about the foreground. If you see the foreground is turning green, I'm going to adjust that later on with the hue adjustments, because that is what you do when you have this kind of situation. The highlights, I'm going to remove, reduce them, minus 46, and the shadows as well, push them down around there. So it's already taking shape. If I want to see the before and after, there is the YY here, and you see the difference in the color here. It's much more prominent than the color here. Right now we're working on the Milky Way rather than the foreground and the sky. That will come as we go along. Right. So clarity, this time I'm going to push it up a bit. So I'm going to push it up like so. I'm going to, okay. Now, the haze also is going to bring up, but it will change a bit the colors. But the haze, what we'll do is we'll bring up more detail in the core here as well. Because when you take the photo, because of the humidity and the sky would not be very clear, the haze will act like it's removing all the mist which would be in the air. It becomes clearer. And we increase a bit the vibrance. Again, what I forgot to do is lens correction, enable lens correction. Now sometimes, I don't know why, Lightroom has a habit of not registering the lens. I don't know why. I take another photo with the same camera and the same software and it will take it. But in this case, it's choosing Sony. Chromatic aberration, that's done. It doesn't make much difference at night, to be honest with you. It only does a difference if you're using a very wide lens and you have a lot of distortion. But in this case, it doesn't make much of a difference. And sometimes I prefer with the distortion. So the magic is going to be in this HS cell. So if I go to the hue and I push the reds a bit up, 11, then the orange is outside, trying to replicate what I did. And whenever you try to edit a photo again from scratch, it will never come the same as you did the one before. So it's always a better, but I'll try to get the same. Minus 74. And this is where that's not much. It's the purple, which means so if we remove the purple, you see the sky now is turning bluish. So it's not just the white balance and the temperature which is going to affect. But if you see now the foreground is no longer green. The foreground now it's the correct color. It's brownish, you know, it's like red brownish, which is how it should be. Now, on the core, the most important I find it is the core. So we do the same thing as we did before. Radial filter, okay, and don't worry about what is doing at the moment. It's not going to adjust anything. We just want to know where to put it. So I'm going to double click, and this is, oh, come here, click on center, and like so. Now I like to put the dot in the center. So whatever I do as exposure contrast, whatever I change here, this is going to be the focus point, okay? Because since I have the feather set out, in this case, to 100, this is going to be concentrated here, and here is the minimal effect. So because I want here to be more important, the haze, just push it up a bit. You see, it's going to too much. This is too much because it's too obvious. If you look on the small one here, you see here it's too bluish, okay? It's too dark. So that is totally wrong. So go back, and it has to be settled. So that's it. And a bit of saturation, because saturation will bring up the colors over here. So if we go right now here, down here is not doing much, but for the sake of this presentation, I'm going to go to the brush, erase, show selected mask overlay, so I see it over there, and we remove anything which has nothing to do with down here. Auto mask, and again, we, okay, and we remove there. Okay, and if you see the before and after, click done. From here, we arrived here. And if you see here the information, this is just one shot. Mind you, we're not talking about stacking. As I told you before, stacking is a different situation. You get more details. But when you take one shot, okay, 100%. Okay, here we have some more details. Now, if you want to make it even more punchier in this area, what you do is use the brush. This is adjustment brush, okay, and it brings up the menu again. Now, it always remembers the last thing you did. So we're going to double click on effects. Everything is 0. The haze, we're going to put it up to 22 or 20. But the flow, we don't want it 100%, because if we leave it 100%, what we'll do is first you have to select a point. This is the point. Okay. If we do this, it's going to give us 100%. We don't want it. So Control Z will undo what you did. The flow, put it down to around 20, and you start brushing this area a bit. So we don't make it that obvious, but what you're doing is you are increasing the details from this area, okay, to make it more appealing, as we say. Okay, so this is before and this is after. Now here, if you see photos of the Milky Way, usually here it's a bit more colorful. Sometimes you see it's yellowish. Some they put it, they put reds, they put yellow. There are a lot of colors in there because there's a dense of stars. That's the reason why. So what we'll do is to create a new brush. What we'll do is double click on effects. In this case, we're going to do the saturation. Doesn't matter. Now we can decrease it, but to see what you were doing, we put the saturation up. The flow, we can do it a bit 25 to 30. Select a point. The point will do nothing at the point, but it has to be where you're going to do the modification. If I put the point here, for example, it will create a saturation circle around it. Although it's black, you're not seeing it, but it doesn't make sense to put it up. In fact, there is. If sometimes it comes up here, it doesn't make sense. It's always put it where you're going to do the modifications. This is, by the way, it's all local adjustment. It's not global adjustment. What I'm doing here is just enhancing. Doesn't matter. It looks a bit artificial at the moment. It doesn't matter. So you are just enhancing the saturation. You're not adding artificial colors. Then what we'll do is decrease the saturation. Okay. This is 0, how it was. And then put it slightly up. Not much. About 30 would be enough. Like so. Right, so we've done. And we'll go fit. Basically, this is my type of editing. If you want to continue editing down here to make it more clearer, you can use, usually what I do is I use the red filter, okay, and increase clarity. In this case, saturation. You see, it remembered what I did last. So double click on effect, and the clarity will go a bit up, and exposure slightly up. I don't want to overpower here. This is the most important. So I don't want it to be overpowered, that one. Okay, that is ready. Click on filter. And I always use the tone curve. The tone curve, I find it gives a punch to the photo. Not much, slightly, a bit so. Slightly a bit underexposed, so we can increase the exposure a bit, and that would be the end result. So this was the end result. Obviously, I took more work here. You see, there's more here, and this is the one which is again, not all they come the same. So if you want it more here to be much darker, you need to use the haze. And if I want to, for example, I did this one, and I want it slightly darker to bring the blacks, I can push the blacks down a bit. You see it here, it's getting darker. And the haze, if you want to push it up a bit more, okay, like so. If you want my opinion. Right, so let's always look over here to give you an idea what you're doing. So the blacks should be like so. Okay. And the noise reduction. The noise reduction. Detail. All right. Okay. Sharpening, I don't use it much, to be honest, in this situation. But if you want to use sharpening, you can, but make sure you don't sharpen the sky. Okay, so let's say you want to sharpen a bit more here. You can use the sharpening. Now, sharpening is best to look magnified. Sharpen until you don't see any artifacts. If you start seeing artifacts, starting showing, see this artifacts, I just push it down. Okay. Now, if I want to sharpen only here, the mask, hold the Alt key, keep it pressed down, okay? And when you move this, it turns black and white, so it comes like a mask, so you know exactly what it's doing. So the more the black conceals, the white reveals. So we are sharpening the stars and the foreground. Okay. The same thing, it's noise reduction. Noise reduction, what it does, it converts black and white, because black and white you can see the noise reduction better than in color. So I keep it whole, and I just press the luminance. Now I tend not to 550. That's the workflow, but everyone has his own opinion. If you look at the photo on the left hand side, the small one, it's already looking a bit more, how do you say, lose the details. The more noise reduction you use, the more details you're going to lose. In this case, 45 either. I will push it down to around 25. Okay. So another one. The time. Yes, I'm going to show you this one, which is super underexposed. This I was taken by mistake, although it was ISO 3000, 15 seconds f2.8. In my opinion, it's underexposed where clouds. It should have been more. This is in pitch darkness, so somehow there is the Milky Way here, but I got it underexposed for some reason. So in this case, let me just hold on one second. This one, to start off with exposure. Now, another thing which you can do with the basic exposure, there is an auto. When you click auto, Lightroom will try to get the photo to the right exposure, but we know it that in night sky photography, if you look at the histogram, you cannot have the full exposure covering the whole histogram. It doesn't work like that, because you are focusing on the subject, which is the middle. You have more than 50% of the photo which is dark, and it's trying to justify the light for it. Now, when it's super dark, and you increase the exposure, the first thing which will happen is introducing the artifacts. In fact, if you look here, you see a lot of colors which are not normal. These are all colors which, in my opinion, will destroy the photo. So the exposure will go down back to 0, because when you increase the whites and you increase the shadows, you are automatically increasing the exposure. So you have, this is the automatic, which in my opinion doesn't work in this particular photo, but in most cases it gives you a starting point. So the shadows should come down. Let's concentrate on up here. This can be edited separate with the local adjustment, but for now I want the whites, for example, it's too high up. Okay, exposure will go up a bit, and the whites, okay, just so this is underexposed. So instead of throwing away the photo, you try to salvage. Let's say in this case I only had one shot, because after that the clouds, it was windy, the clouds came in and we stopped shooting the Milky Way. So you go on the oval radio filter, you do the same. Now it's remembering the last thing we did, which was saturation, but we don't want saturation. Then we click on effects and we go on the haze. And the haze will bring out the Milky Way. Now, obviously, this is not a super photo. It's just not to throw it away. It's just a photo which you managed to capture the Milky Way after all, underexposed. And down here, if you want, you can use the red filter. Again, it remembers bothers you, comes all the time. This is something which I hate about Lightroom. This is the only thing. It always remember the last thing you did. So what you do is just adjust it to 0. Okay. Just remove it again, and let's just delete it. Delete this one, and start again. Okay. And the exposure slightly up, not much. Now, if you want, we usually start exposure here and dark here. So what we'll do, revert it. Okay. Brush, and this is going to be a fast one. Flow 100, erase, and remove from up here. Because what you need is just exposure from so like so. Okay. All right. Now let's say I want this alterations I did. I like this one, I like that, I like everything, and I want to make sure that it goes on a particular photo, but not today, for example, or I want to do it later on. Lightroom has presets, but if you want to add your own presets, in fact, here there are quite a lot of presets. They come standard with Lightroom. But if you want to have your own, like I have this, I want mine, for example, okay? You just click on plus, create a preset. This is a feature which I like, and in Camera Raw there isn't. So if you do some alterations, let's say when you start off with the lens correction, and maybe you do some bit of clarity, and that's it. You can do that preset called clarity lens correction. So any photos, just apply it, and you continue from the starting point. You don't have to go on each one and do the lens correction and everything. Okay, so you click on preset. Like in this preset, I don't want saturation, I don't want the color. You can choose whatever you want. I don't want transformation, I only want lens correction in this case, and the haze, so I can check everything. Okay. I'm going to name it lens and the haze. That's all. And create. So whenever I want to start a new photo, okay, I start from this one. If I go on the presets, user preset, and I find one called lens and the haze, once I click it, double click on it, it will apply the haze I did. Okay, there wasn't much the haze actually in this one. You can compare this to that. Slightly comparison, there isn't much, but it's a starting point. This is something which I like to have. And when you scroll on each one, on the left-hand side, you can see what it's doing, even on the right-hand side, without applying it. But right now, it's just going on each one. Now, why is italic and the others are not italic? Because this modification only applies to JPEGs. This modification was applied when there was a RAW. So in this case, it will come italic. So it means that not everything is going to be correctly as it should be. That's why it's italic. Okay. Are there any questions at this stage, or?
Alex, I believe Tony Azzopardi wanted to ask you something. I've left some time so that we can have maybe some other questions, but I can take Tony if you want right now. Tony, Let me see. Tony. Is Tony available?
Okay, now I'm here, yes. Sorry.
Okay, Tony, go ahead. Go ahead, Tony.
Alex, just wanted to ask you, I'm not experienced with Lightroom. I'm experienced with Photoshop and Camera Raw. Do you consider this a better program than Camera Raw for the type of masking, for the ease of use? The masks you were showing us in black and white, and
I use both.
From your point of view, why do you prefer Lightroom than Camera Raw?
First of all, the graphic user interface, the GUI of the Lightroom, it's much more appealing than the Camera Raw. That is my opinion. I stand to be corrected, but that's how I see it. The fact that you have everything on the left, everything is explained, okay? And you have much more features available to your fingertips than Camera Raw. I find it a plus. Besides, if you want to start with Lightroom and then you want to continue on Photoshop, you can do so, because all you need to do is just, you have this photo at the moment. If I want to
export to Photoshop, right?
You just
they're both Adobe. Yeah.
And you go edit in Adobe Photoshop and you continue Photoshop. If you want to use also Nik Collection, because last week we had Nik Collection, you just go on Photo, edit in, and you have Nik Collection on here. So Color Effects Pro, Analog Effects Pro, Define Pro. So basically you can integrate Lightroom with any software which you like. What it does, if you go on Nik Collection and you edit a photo, it will not go back to the same photo. It will create another TIFF file for you with the alterations you did on Nik Collection. Photoshop will do a layer for you when you do Nik Collection. In this case, it does not. It will create a completely new photo. So you have the untouched raw, because when you modify a photo, this is a modified. And how do I know it's not modified? Because there is no plus minus square at the bottom right here. If I just click alter something here, automatically it will create a plus and minus at the bottom thumbnail, which shows me that this photo has been modified. It's not as came out from the camera. Okay, so if you want to go back, you just reset and it will remove all the modifications you had done. This is straight out from the camera. But I find that Lightroom, unfortunately, is underrated. You know, this is my opinion. A lot of people, they prefer to go with just Photoshop and Camera Raw. Camera Raw is good, but it's not as powerful as this. This is the fact that you have the scale up, which is not available in Camera Raw. You can do it in Photoshop, true, but this is available much easier. I find it sometimes you use the tools to make your life easier and not more difficult. Photoshop is good, but I find a lot of people are scared of Photoshop because it has a lot of menus, which is true. This has a lot of features as well. I only showed you a little bit of how you do the Milky Way, but besides that, there is also library. You can do slideshow. You can print.
Are there many tutorials for it? I mean,
I follow on YouTube.
Find your way.
Mainly, I follow a lot of YouTube.
All right.
Specifically
because I'm considering trying it now, because I was skeptic about it first, but I think I've opened my mind now, and I think they can work alongside, as you rightly so said.
I started Lightroom a couple of years ago. I'm not proficient on Photoshop. I started 20 years ago. So
same here.
I use Photoshop a lot, but Lightroom, when you want to edit something, and especially Milky Way, I find Lightroom is the right program. I tried DxO, I tried Capture One. it doesn't do the job as Lightroom does. I find it much easier to go about it. The fact that it has the haze, and again, it in the haze, it's on the local and the global, and it makes it much easier for you. The only thing we have to bear in mind is that when you use the local and not the global, okay? When I say the local means if you want to use the radial filter, that is a local adjustment. If you're doing only this part, the effect you have on the clarity, if I push it all, it's not the same like when you do it on global. This is 100%. Look at this, okay? I'm going to delete it. Yes, I'm going to do it global. And you go on the haze and do it 100%. Give it some time. Oh, because I'm still on the radial, sorry. Okay, the haze, 100%. You see the difference? It's much more, how do you say it? The 100% of the global, it's much more than 100% on the local. Did I make myself clear? I don't know if I maybe understood. If I click here and I do round, it's not the same. I find it less, maybe about 80% touchy-feely, but in the global, it is much more powerful. It's much stronger.
Even so it's got a very user-friendly interface. Am I right?
In my opinion, it is user interface, but it takes some time until someone getting
used to it. Yeah.
Getting used to the menus. But let me tell you, it only has so few menus: basic, tone, HSL, split toning, detail, lens correction, transform, effect, calibration. Calibration, you hardly use it, okay? And the basic, because from the basic, you have this for here boxes. If you click on it, there's also some presets. They come, landscape, portrait. These are the ones.
This is also in Camera Raw,
Yes, but it is a spin-off. Camera Raw is made by Adobe. Lightroom is made by Adobe. So they use the same interface.
Yeah, they should use the same engine.
Yeah, not exactly the same engine, interface. A lot of things are shared, but they're not the same engine because some items are not available in the Camera Raw. For example, the one I showed you in the transformation, as far as I know, I checked it today, there isn't this scale, aspect, rotation, vertical. There isn't. This is
so I must, when I have more time on my hands, I must get into it then.
It's up to you. I mean,
yeah, that's what I'm feeling right now. Anyway, thank you, Alex. I won't keep you any longer. Thank you.
It's okay, no problem. But in my opinion, it's underrated. I've seen a lot of talks.
Maybe because there aren't much courses on it, and
Lightroom is something which one should explore into. You know, it's but not if you want to do masks and layers. Forget it. That is Photoshop.
But it's my feeling now. It's not Photoshop versus Lightroom. It's Lightroom complementing Photoshop.
Exactly. No, Lightroom will never replace Photoshop. Photoshop is much more superior than Lightroom in many ways. But if you want to do a basic
edit,
you don't want to go into skin toning and stuff like that.
And batch processing and all that, yeah.
Batch processing, this one does, Because let's say
Lightroom, as they say, is very good in fact for batch processing and for cataloging.
Let's say I have one shot on the same day with the same lighting and everything is the same. And I want to batch edit all of them. What you do is just edit the first one, hold the shift key, go on the last one. You have sync now. You see this one sync?
Yes.
You click on it. You choose what you want.
I believe there's something similar,
and synchronize. But this is non-destructive Camera Raw. Once you open it in
Photoshop, it is destructive, yes.
And you forget to
do
it
the pixels
as a smart object, you will not go back and alter it.
Yes.
If I close Lightroom and open again, I have all the information back what I did. All the information will be there. What I click is there, unless you don't delete them. If I go here and I remove them
I
from
have
the
it. I have it
library.
installed. I just haven't had the time to experiment with it.
So basically, I don't know if there were questions, but we exceeded 7 o'clock, so I don't want to.
Anyway, won't keep you any longer. For maybe others want to ask you questions. Thank you, Alex. Thank you so much. Mute my
Thank
Vince,
you,
please.
thank
Mute
you,
me.
thank you, thank you, Tony. Alex, we have another question from Mark. I don't know his surname. It's just Mark, but it's not Mark Shikluna though. He's asking that can we get some more tips and tricks with lenses, use of zoom lenses, or for Astro, recommend lenses for Nikon, prime lenses. I believe you've already mentioned something with Samyang, but
Yes.
can you maybe give an insight on this?
If you don't want to break the bank, in my opinion, Samyang is the way forward to go to. First of all, they're sharp. They're very sharp. So, as a starting point, usually they start at 24 millimeter, not more than that, because otherwise you're going to end up having a problem for a composition for the Milky Way. I'm talking about the Milky Way. I used to use an Nikon, and I still have it. The 12 millimeter Samyang. It's a fisheye lens. I love it. I don't sell it because it fits my Sony as well, and I use it as well. But in some cases, I use the 16 to 35. I wish to get a prime lens, but until Sony decides to do something very wide prime, at this stage, I'm going to stay as I am. But the only thing which I don't recommend is I've seen a lot telling them use the kit lens. The kit lens is f3.5, which already lost a stop almost, And in astrophotography, it is the aperture which is very important and is not the ISO. ISO is the image killer, we call it, basically. The more ISO you're going to use, the more noise you're going to have. So for one shot, I'm always talking about one shot, because if you're going to take multiple shots, you can have high ISOs. It's not a problem, because it's going to take care of when you do the stacking. But in this case, a one shot, the ISO you try to lower it as much as possible. So the aperture has to be f2.8 or greater. When I say greater, it means either f2 or f1.4, if you can afford 1.4. Samyang is, I have no affiliation with Samyang, but from my experience and whoever had Samyang, I hardly seen anybody talking bad about them. Even if you see reviews on YouTube, they all praise the lens, and it's a good value because it doesn't cost much, But if you buy the manual lens for astrophotography, it's going to cost you less, because automatic focus, you are not going to use it, so you spending money extra for nothing.
Alex, I'd like to hear some. I always think that feedback given by Joe Attard is always valuable. So he's present, and I'd like him to give us an insight of what he thinks. I don't think Joe shoots much Milky Way, but I'm sure he can give us some good thoughts. And Stephen also has joined us, so I'll ask Stephen to prepare after Joe to give us some comments on what we heard today. Joe used to lecture photography, and he was into post-processing as well. I'm sure he can give us some good comments on this. Joe. All right, Joe.
Yes, okay, not too bad, thank you. Nice to be back as well, seeing you all. First of all, proset, Alex. This was really rewarding, and as you rightly said, it is a bit underrated. I know photographers who don't touch any other program. Not even. I mean, they leave Photoshop only, as you said, for blemish touching up. But as a processing machine, they use Lightroom only. In fact, some people who print like I do also prefer a lot the printing machine of Lightroom, which is an excellent one. So they print also from Lightroom direct. I was also we learned a lot also from Alex's presentation. He gave us some very nice tips, although not everybody shoots Milky Ways, but most of the things he said, especially on the adjustments and how to handle adjustments. I mean, that can work for practically any photo. Proset, Alex.
Thank you.
Thank you, Joe.
Can I thank
Sure.
also? Can I,
Sure.
on behalf of the society, thank those who have participated in the coming annual competition and exhibition? We had a very nice turnout. In fact, we had a turnout which was even better than last year, considering everything. That is a big success. I also want to thank all those who have helped the executive members to run the presentation of work so smoothly and so professionally. Unfortunately, I couldn't be present this year, but I followed it on because Joseph managed to do it live on Facebook, I think it was, and I could see that it was well prepared. Proset, Stephen, Lewis, and especially also those not in the committee like Johan and John, who helped making it a very successful morning, considering the conditions we're living in. Thank you very much.
Very good points, Joe. What I would like to add as well, what you're saying, it's good if there are also volunteers in regards to when it comes to setting up the exhibition and also to removing the exhibition, not just setting up the exhibition, because I believe the society would need a helping hand from a number of volunteers who can come that day to help Louis, Joseph, Stephen, and the rest of the committee joining, and many other volunteers who already are part of this exhibition every year when they set up, because there is a lot of work that has to be done, I'm sure. Stephen is around. He came a bit late, but yes, he's around.
I would like, I know that you have recorded this session. I would like to have it
Sure.
Because I'm sure that Alex gave a good presentation. I'm not into astrophotography. I only went 3 times shooting astrophotography with my colleagues. So for me, it's a new section sort of. And also about Lightroom. I do not use Lightroom. I use Bridge and Photoshop. So yes, please, I would appreciate a lot if you can share it with me. Sorry. I would like to thank also these photographers like Alexander and those who are going to follow the steps of Alexander, who are willing to share their knowledge, because also we need people like you to keep abreast with the members and non-members to come and join the Multi-Photographic Society. Thanks to you, Vince, for these opportunities. As I said, I would like to have this recording, Vince, so that I will afterwards speak with Alex on what he has shared with you. Thank you.
Sure. Thank you, Stephen. Thank you. I can say something on this as well. Maybe I can remind everyone on this. The plan is that we are recording each webinar. Each webinar is being recorded, except for that. That will happen next week because we decided, Stephen, when I say Stephen, obviously with the blessing of the committee, we decided that we will keep this restricted for to be sure that we're saying that it is for 18 plus. Even the featuring artist agreed with us that this session will be 18 plus. But for all other webinars, we will still record the webinar, but it will not be streamed live. As regards to recording the webinars, what I can say is shortly we will be setting up Malta Photography Webinars YouTube channel, where we will upload these webinars in this channel. But not also that, I will be passing over all these webinars to the Malta Photographic Society so that they are kept in the archives of the society. So if anyone maybe doesn't see the webinar, they can even maybe sometime we can show these or they can be used in whatever it is needed, because after all they are now a property of the club as well. They are as well as webinars. What I can add, if maybe there are any of you who are interested in or maybe had an experience with either Lightroom or Milky Way, I believe, or landscapes, or I believe Leonard passed the comment regarding Lightroom. So maybe we can get some comments from Leonard because he uses Lightroom. Leonard, you are available. I saw you. Maybe you can give us some comments.
Hi. Mela, Iva, jena nużaħ il-Lightroom. Basically, I find it as a good management tool. I don't use it as much as Alex. I didn't started the webinar from the beginning, so I would like also to see it from the beginning. I use it very much less than Alex is doing. I just use it as a management tool, and I do the very basic editing, like the calibration of the lens, just a bit of cropping and some levels. But then the rest of the editing is done basically on Photoshop. And when regards to management system, Lightroom is very effective, but you need to be disciplined so that whenever you upload your photos into the program, you need to give them keywords, so that each time that you're looking for something, you can find it. It's easier done than said. I have a lot of photos which are not tagged and without keywords, and then if you want to find something, you go, I think it's in the year 2000, it's in the year something there, and you try to look into the files for a particular photo. When in fact, if you have photos with keywords, you can say, for example, you're looking for doors, red doors, for example, you just type in red doors and all your photos which include red doors will come up. It's a material from which year you took it and whatever. So from that aspect, it's very good. But again, as I said, like Dana, I try to preach it, and even myself, I don't do it much, unfortunately. But it's a very good software. It is my first step in the workflow.
Very good, Alex. I think we have a comment from Peter. I would like to have a comment from Peter. Peter said, with regards to recording, one particular speaker will most likely object, so best you inform the speaker beforehand. Yes, Peter, we are speaking with the artists before, but we're telling them about this, that so far what we had, we haven't had any problems regarding, because we are speaking with the artist. In fact, Stephen and myself this week had a meeting with Natasha, and we agreed on these terms as well. But we are saying this time round that we are recording the webinars for the sake of having an archive in our systems. Peter, I'm going to open your mic because I know that you are a person that's from the darkroom days, actually, and the digital part of photography is something that you are exploring nowadays. But how, if I may ask you, how would you interpret your techniques regarding regarding what we're saying here, Lightroom, with those that you used to work in your darkroom days? I believe you were quite a skillful darkroom photographer.
For starters, I get the impression that you're calling me prehistoric.
No, you're not.
which is not the case. But I must admit that I'm out of my depth here. I can use Photoshop, barely use Photoshop, just to survive. So I enjoy watching other people showing their techniques, and hopefully something might stick.
Very good. You don't do any retouching with
Hardly any. Very basic.
Very basic. Okay. Let me see. We've got another comment from Mark. Mark, let me see, because I get mixed up. Mark, can you share with us your thought? I'm trying to open your mic. Mark.
Hi, hello.
Tell us, Mark, so
Hi,
that we will.
Yes, basically, I just wanted to point out most that has already been said with regards to Lightroom. I use Lightroom a lot, especially when I'm editing a lot of a number of photographs which are very similar. However, as said already in the session, it doesn't actually complement or doesn't actually replace Photoshop. So I just wanted to point out from my point of view the use of Lightroom as opposed to Camera Raw and vis-a-vis as well Photoshop.
Very good, Mark. Thanks for your intervention. Maybe we can have some comments from Paul. Paul, you are quite tech savvy. Paul Daguara is around. Maybe you can give us some comments as well. What do you think of Lightroom? Can you hear me, Paul? Hello, Paul. Paul, I don't think Paul is hearing me, but okay. Paul is not hearing me at the moment, so okay, Paul is here. Paul, can you hear me? Paul? He's unmuted, but I think there is a problem with he's trying to talk. he has a problem, in fact.
Okay,
He's saying.
tismani issa?
Okay. There you are, Paul.
Nirgrazzja lil Alex għax irnexxielu jagħmel żewġ interessi, l-astrophotography u fl-istess ħin kienet għamil ma jaf xejn fuq il-Lightroom.
Paul, can you do English, please? Because
I'm sorry.
We stream. That's fine. Thank you.
That's not a problem. Well, first of all, I would like to thank Alex for doing this webinar. It tackled astrophotography and also introduced Lightroom to some of us. I am very tempted to use Lightroom, and in fact, when I have some spare time, I will go through it. An excellent session. Thanks, Alex.
Thank you.
Thank you, Paul. Any other comments, maybe, from before we wrap up? If there are anyone of you who wants to do any other comments, so
the last thing I want to say, if possible.
Yes, sure, Alex.
In the chats I saw, I'm not recall who it was, that some young only do manual lenses, which is not the case. Some young also do automatic autofocus lenses, but for the sake of astrophotography, having an automatic focus, it does not make a difference because, as you know, as well, when we went shooting, we ended up everybody switching to manual focus. No, but I want to clear. So if somebody wants to buy automatic focus and then using it as manual, you can do the same thing because if you want to use it for something else, it's good.
Alex, I want to thank you on behalf of everyone here, us. I want to thank you for your excellent insight into this. I'm now being tempted as well to try and use Lightroom because, as you know, and we've discussed together, I use Camera Raw, but I'm being tempted to trying out Lightroom as well. Thank you for this wonderful session, and I hope that even for some food for thought, maybe in subsequent photo walks, we can maybe someday organize even a sunset session, something different, just something to note, and we can obviously try out some techniques regarding landscapes and then come and try them out in Lightroom as well. Thank you, everyone. Stay safe. We will see you next week. Thank you.